And welcome back to 705 Sports. I've kicked Dan off the set for now, and I'm joined by Leni from the Canadian Mental Health Association. Leni, thank you so much for joining me today.
You're welcome. Happy to be here.
And what we really want to talk about today is there's a lot of recent events going on in the sporting world involving mental health. And mental health is something that is super important that sometimes seems to get overlooked. So Leni, let's start off by talking about, do you feel there's more of a stigma towards mental health within the sports world than maybe other organizations?
Um, Especially in professional sports, I could see that being an issue. Even starting off from a young age, kids worry about what other kids are thinking. And, if they struggle with anxiety or depression, or if there's things going on at home that really affects their mental health, they really keep it quiet, and they're afraid that other people are going to find out. And I could see on a large scale, as you move into the professional world, how that could be quite a bit of a concern, especially when you're televised and things are being promoted, and you have all these endorsements and stuff like that. That any small part of mental health that could be associated with you can affect their image. And that's something to me that's been, I've been coaching for almost 20 years, and I could see how, if it's affecting young kids at this age, I can't imagine what people in the professional level are having to go through. The stigma is definitely there. The concern is people thinking that it can happen to, just about, people not knowing that it can happen to just about anybody. Is probably the biggest concern. You could be sitting across from somebody at the supper table, the dinner table, doing an interview like this. One of the two of us could be struggling with mental illness, and you would rarely know, because it's not something that we talk about openly as much as we should.
And then when you mention your coaching experience, did you notice a change in people starting to talk about their mental health struggles more in recent years, or has it always been sort of a stigma where athletes especially just don't want to talk about it?
It's something that I've lived my whole life, growing up playing sports in both hockey and soccer. It's something we never talked about. At a young age, my home life was my home life. Whatever I did at home and whatever was happening at home, always stayed at home. When I got to the field and I got to the rink, it was something that I just try not to talk about, try not to just kind of forget about it. And it's what I use sports for, really, is to kind of shut that out. But at the end of the day, I know there was about 4 or 5 in every dressing room I was in that probably were in the same circumstances. And that stuff snowballs, not being able to talk about it at a young age, and worrying about whatever people are thinking and all that kind of stuff. But today, as I've been coaching the last several years, we talk about it. It's something that we bring to the forefront. It's almost like we have opened the doors and told everyone that it's okay. It's okay to talk about it. It's okay to bring it to whoever to talk about. And we've always had somebody on the team now to kind of work through those issues with people. Having somebody that we can kind of direct more of that stuff to. We'd like it to be the coach. The coach is the one that everybody looks up to, and with proper training and just a little bit of a little bit of offerings of education, I think that the coaches can make a huge impact.
So then let's say another coach is looking to be able to make that impact for their team. Is there a service that they can go to get the proper training so they can make sure they're dealing with mental health issues the right way?
Yeah, through the Canadian Mental Health, there are several programs through the mental health promotion, training, and education purposes. The mental health first aid, we have the assist training, we have the safe talk, the talk today. The talk today is more based towards the sporting programs. What they do is they provide training to most of the teams, and within those teams, they provide, like through the players and the support staff, they direct almost like a mental health coach. So the mental health coach from CMHA will provide all the information that the team needs in order to kind of have the proper education to the team, and the guidelines to where to go. And within that team, there'll be almost like a mental health champion, they'll call them, so that there's kind of a direction between who the team can go to get those services, and then to kind of navigate back and forth for the services. And then there's also the Talk Today events that you see some of the teams here locally, just to promote and educate on game nights and stuff like that.
And then would you say when teams locally and athletes locally and coaches locally are trying to do this, do you think when professional athletes are starting to talk more about their mental health or their addiction struggles, do you think that's actually helping down in the junior leagues?
Yes, absolutely. Our kids look up to, the professional athletes so much that anything they do, and right down to what kind of stick they use, all that kind of stuff. For them to be speaking on stuff like this, if any of that was experienced by them, I think they know now, it's okay to go and tell a parent, to go tell a friend, a mental health counselor, someone who they trust. The doors are definitely starting to swing open, which is fantastic, because like I said, if it's happening at that higher level, I can only imagine what at the younger levels, what some of these kids are going through, and are unable to open and communicate with a professional.
And then I want to talk about, for an athlete that's trying to jump into that professional level, and we all know that stress can really weigh on your mental health. So what are some things that a young athlete can do, or services they could reach out to if they're struggling with, let's say they're trying to make it into the OHL or the NHL or whatever type of jump they're trying to make in their sports career?
With something like this, I'd probably offer my personal experience. Growing up, especially at a young age, if you start to kind of develop any symptoms that you're not sure what they are and or how they're affecting you, I could also use my daughter as an example, who struggled with anxiety growing up, playing hockey from a very young age. At first, it seems like it's very difficult to open those doors. But once you start talking about it and sharing with someone, especially if you're aware of someone who has either lived through something like this as a player, having someone to go to and be able to explain all these feelings, emotions, to work through is probably very beneficial at a young age. It's very rarely do we see players able to get through most of this stuff on their own without some type of support. Like I said, with my daughter, I was able to myself coach her through not only player development, but also through her mental health struggles. Only because, of my upbringing, the way I was brought up and some of the things that went on in my life, they were kind of similar to what she was going through. And I just know from experience. And for a player at a young age to be able to find someone like that is highly beneficial and probably life-saving at some point.
And then when you mentioned about how you were able to help your daughter, what's something that parents can do as well if they see their young loved ones struggling with mental health? What's some things that they can do to make sure that they're doing the right things and not the wrong things?
So that comes down to the whole stigma of mental health. We as parents always, when the teacher calls us at school and says, your kid's doing this at school, we kind of shy away and say, no, that can't be my kid. Open the door, open the line of communication with your child. If you see something's different, ask the questions. There's so many questions that need to be asked to try to get out what the child is actually feeling and what kind of symptoms and all that stuff. If I can look back now, I would definitely do some more digging into what was going on, because sometimes you hear something that you kind of don't want to hear. But as a parent, you have to be accepting into no matter what your child is telling you, that's your child. And in order to support them, in order to help them grow, you have to be able to give them the supports they need and for them to work through it.
And then just before we go and we move to a new topic, I just want to speak on, if there's someone struggling with mental health, what is the one biggest recommendation you can give to them moving forward?
Don't be scared. Know that there's lots of people out there that are, going through something similar. It's never too small of an issue. It's never too big of an issue to tell, but you have to be able to talk to people. find someone that you trust, a healthcare professional, mental health professional, a friend, a family member. Don't be afraid and listen. Make sure you're listening. The most important part we can be a part of is actually listening to our kids and listening for those, those cues that give us some type of red flag, and educate our kids as much as you can.
Well, Leni, thank you so much for taking the time with me and to inform our viewers on a topic that really is super important, that's becoming more and more in the forefront every single day.
No problem. Thank you very much.
And thank you again for coming. And Dan will be back with me at the desk to finish off the rest of 705 Sports right after this commercial break.